Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Brooke Trumeter, and we are here today with Thomas Edwards. He is formerly known as the Professional Wingman. Thomas built a public brand on charisma and connection, but what makes him extraordinary today is the private transformation that followed. He now coaches dadpreneurs to win in business without losing their soul or their families. So, Thomas, for those who don't know you, who are you and what are you doing today?
First of all, Brooke, I love that intro. I'm going to copy that because that's actually so precise in what I do in a very short way. So thank you. Thank you for having me here. To put it really plainly, I'm the guy that people call when they need a major upgrade in their business or in their personal life. And I almost hate separating the two because I just don't believe that they are separate. Your life is your life, and it's filled with business and responsibilities. And if you're married or if you have kids, those are involved as well, right? And so when someone's struggling with trying to maintain or grow or just get a grasp of who they are inside of all of this, I'm the guy that they call.
That is awesome. I totally agree with that. Like business and personal, they do. Like a lot of people, well, let me help you with your business life. Let me help you with your personal life. And it's kind of like, well, great. I can be really successful in my business life, but then you're losing the focus on the personal, and that puts strain on relationships, marriages, your children, all of that.
Yeah.
And then the same thing, if you're like trying to grow in your personal life and, have somebody helping you over there, well, that person, you're kind of losing the business side of it as well. So yeah, I love that because your life is your life. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole idea of work-life balance by itself is a lie because you at some point you're not working and then you just have your life. So it's all inclusive. And I find that the number one reason why most people struggle with it is because they believe that they have to be or do something different in one area as opposed to another area, right? Like there needs to be a work version of me and then a dad version of me, or a work version of me and a wife version of me. And that's just not true. Like when you're splitting your identity in half, it actually doubles the pressure and the mental load it takes to maintain two separate identities in one life.
Yeah.
So the number one thing I do is to help people really integrate themselves in a way that allows them to show up authentically, fully, and powerfully in every area of their life that they desire success.
That's me. I just actually had, and it's kind of interesting that you say that. I just had this conversation. I was asked when I was a guest on a podcast recently, because I build podcasts for people. That's what I do.
Nice.
And for business and landing clients and things like that. But somebody asked me, they go, well, how do you balance being authentic and your business? Like you talking to people in a podcast or however it is in business. And I'm like, well, they're not mutually exclusive. That being authentic is the strategy. You can't have two different versions of yourself. You are who you are. And if you're trying to put on a mask during business, it's going to fall eventually. And then people can see right through that stuff anyway. They can tell when you're being authentic and genuine, so that's an interesting bit. That's actually come up so frequently in the last 2 weeks for me, like the conversation with people. It's interesting. Yeah.
Man, I think people are seeking more authenticity, not just within themselves, but also in what they're consuming and who they're connecting with. Because most people, and I'm confident just because I've been doing this for 16 years, most people believe the opposite, that like by being fully authentic, they actually put themselves at risk of harming themselves, whether it's personally or in their business. And I think in today's world, it's the opposite. Like the more authentic you are, as polarizing it may be, it's actually going to attract more goodness in your life.
Absolutely. And I had a coach, one of my coaches had talked to me, and I had made that comment a while back. And I'm like, I'm afraid somebody's not going to like me. And then they're not going to want to do business with me, or they're not going to, something along those lines. And he's like, okay. He's like, there's like 8 billion people on this planet. You're not going to, it's fine. It's like it's better for you to sit there and find the people that align with you And by being
Mhm.
authentic, it's going to bring those people you want to deal with to you. And it's going to naturally repel the people that aren't going to be a good fit for you in the first place.
Exactly, right? Like, if you're doing anything that matters, you're going to have a percentage of people who won't like it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's not because, and I often find that it's not because of what you think.
Mhm.
Like, people just assume that because people are haters, that they're hating on you.
Mhm.
And I actually don't think that's true.
Okay.
I think people are hating on what you represent within them.
Okay. Yeah.
Think about it like I saw this movie, the movie Air, where it talks about how Michael Jordan collaborated with Nike to
Mhm.
create the Air Jordan brand.
Right.
And there was this scene, it was absolutely amazing. And it was Matt Damon talking about like basically why athletes are these special people.
Mhm.
I think that's the movie. Maybe it's another movie, but he talks about why these athletes are special people. It's because it's not because of them. It's because of what their ability and their performance represents in other people, which is what they can't do.
Yeah.
So whatever bias, cognitive bias someone has, whether it's positive or negative, is going to influence their perception of that. Like for me, I love sports.
Mhm.
So when I see someone who's excelling at a high level, I have a positive cognitive bias towards that.
Mhm.
So I can be in the dream of what that could have been like and see it manifested through someone else
Right.
and be excited for that. But if I'm someone who has not lived to my potential, I'm bitter and I'm disappointed by that. And I
Mhm.
see someone living out their dream, particularly if it's a dream that maybe I have thought of,
Yep.
I'm going to hate on them as a just natural reaction because I don't want to see someone else living my dream.
Yeah. That totally makes sense.
Yeah. And the more you increase your influence, the more you're doing the thing, the ratio, like the percentage of people who are going to hate on you is going to increase. And I always say, like, the goal is to try to make sure that that ratio stays in your favor, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you want at least 51% of the people in your audience loving you,
Yeah.
right? But that's just the reality. I mean, the bigger the movement, the bigger the cause, the more you're going to experience people showing up, trying to either bring you down or come against that cause or you. And you just have to be prepared for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's such an interesting take. Very, very intuitive with people
Mm.
there. Yeah. No, I love that. So take me back just a little bit to what was your life like at the peak of that external success that you talked about before? And then what started your shift internally to be like, oh, that's things got to change.
Yeah. So as far back as I can remember, I've always been someone who I would say previously would reinvent themselves. So something massive would happen in my life. I would take that opportunity and reinvent myself. And I realized it was actually as a form of protection
Mm,
against preventing that thing from happening again.
mm,
Well, the professional wingman was a result of that,
okay.
where I was cheated on by someone, reinvented myself to prevent that from happening again. And then it just turned into something that I eventually was able to leverage to a business.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how big, how fast, and how good I was going to be in this business. I really was just wanting to make this kind of like a part-time thing.
Mhm.
And then eventually it just blew up. And I started finding myself featured in tons of major media publications. I started to go on national TV. Clients were flying me out to
Wow.
their city to work with them. I mean, it happened really, really fast in a matter of 3 to 5 years. There was this window.
Mhm.
And in that time, I found the love of my life. I also got married, moved to New York, was living in Manhattan. I mean, by all statistics, I was crushing it, right?
Right.
Like using another sports analogy, putting up Hall of Fame numbers here, right?
Right. Right.
And I'm a young age. I'm at a young age, right? I'm in my mid 20s. So I end up going on the Steve Harvey Show.
Oh,
And this is when he was based in Chicago. He flew me out. I was on the show, totally crushed it. Even he was impressed. And I remember celebrating later that night of just like, I made it, right? Like
yeah.
this whole idea of what my parents wanted for me, I was totally able to create it. They didn't really understand what I did at the time, but they loved the fact that I was good at it and I was successful. Met the love of my life. She was hot. Like I'm somewhat of a known person,
That's
when I would
hard.
travel to cities,
Yeah.
people knew me. And I just felt like I had it all. And the moment after I had that realization, there was this unexpected emptiness that I felt right after. It was almost like, why was I doing all this? Like, what was all this for? I have all these things.
Yeah.
Like, what is it for? And I didn't have an answer to that because I was living, this is all in reflection, by the way. I was living a life and I created my identity around this life that I thought if I could live it and be this person that I would be loved and accepted and praised and all these things. But I didn't really know why I wanted those things and what I was going to do after that. So I felt just very uncomfortable. And naturally, I'm celebrating on a rooftop bar. I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to drink and celebrate, and forget about this. And so got totally hammered, woke up the next morning with a hangover, but that lingering thought was still there too. And I didn't know how to handle it. I was, once again, very young. So I wasn't mature in my emotional intelligence with myself. Ironically, could do it for other people.
Yeah.
But with myself, I couldn't navigate what this feeling was. And it perpetuated what eventually became a severe drinking problem.
Oh.
And it really, my entire life was starting to just burn down. Right. And so I lost a touch of like the purpose of the work that I was doing. I fell out of love with that. I later found out I was going to become a dad. It was planned. And it was one of the best days of my life. And at the same time, that identity that I had worked so hard to build died in that moment because you can't be a wingman and a dad. Like, how is that possible? That was my mentality.
Yeah.
So I was actively mourning the death of that identity through just more drinking and drugging and escapism and just avoiding the thing. And then all that culminated to eventually like my marriage almost falling apart. And by the grace of God, I ended up, got sober 6+ years ago. And at that point, I was so done with what I was doing that I actually took a hiatus from coaching. Like that day, I retired from in-person coaching, like going out to bars and like working with people. And I took a hiatus from coaching because I didn't know anything else about myself up to that point, except for the fact that I was a coach and I was a wingman. So I took some time, went back into myself and kind of just reconnected some dots. Like, what are some things that I love to do? Where do I find joy? Because I haven't had it for years. Like, let's start from there. And that's when I came across, and I joke around, like my first true love, which was video games.
Oh,
and yeah. And I remembered for me, video games was never, oftentimes we'll hear people talk about video games being kind of an escape hatch, an outlet where people can kind of just avoid life. But for me, it was never like that. It was a place to freely express myself, to inspire creativity, to see the mechanics of how things were built. And I actually went to school to become a video game producer. So I always had that passion with the academic knowledge around it. So I decided to just pour myself into the experience of video games, and I pursued a semi-professional career as a gamer. Competed in tournaments, and then I ended up competing in an in-person tournament. This is 2019, just to kind of date that. It was my first in-person tournament out of 120 people. I think I came in, 33rd, which was really good for a first timer. And I remember walking out of that situation just totally on fire because my experience up to that moment was like, I was practicing every day, playing video games. I was connecting with people around the world. I mean, I would used to wake up early in the morning so I could play against players in Japan because they were typically the best in the world. And I would just use that as my training ground and connect with people on Twitch and different communities. And I was totally myself. Like no one knew that I was the wingman. No one knew my past. They just saw me as a fellow gamer. And the whole experience end to end was just so much enjoyable. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, like, I wish my life was like this, where I can just like play all the time, let it be practice and perform and like track the whole experience. And then that's when it clicked for me. I was like, wow, like, what if I just allowed the philosophy around that, the principles around that to be my coaching methodology?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when the one up effect was born. And the one up effect is a philosophy that basically says, like, if you remember Super Mario Brothers,
Yeah.
whenever you would play originally, like, it's kind of a game of scarcity. You're trying to like not die, get hit by the Goomba, fall in the pit, right? And you're trying to just get your bearings.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get that first green mushroom, which is like the extra life, all of a
Why
sudden
not?
there's a, yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
There's like a psychological shift that takes place where you're just like, wait, like, it's okay if I make a mistake because I have another life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're exploring, you're taking risks. And
Yeah.
if you do make a mistake, not only do you have an extra life, but you have feedback and the replay value that you're playing a game, knowing that you can get better.
Yes.
And that whole philosophy to me was just incredible. So I just went home and I like designed this whole philosophy. Then COVID hit, and it was the perfect thing for the people that came to me to work with them, to work with me, to use this philosophy to manage not just their business, but their everyday lives, their marriages, their kids, their personal health. And I realized, wow, this is massive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I started to see the opportunities where the things that I've learned in 14, 15, 16 years in dating and relationships can easily be applied to so many other areas of life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the shift took place.
Got it. Yeah, that's quite a journey. That journey.
You have no idea, bro.
That's here. I'm like trying to like process all of this as you're telling me. And I'm like, on from essentially, being the wingman. And what I'm getting out is almost like you kind of like Will Smith in Hitch, the movie Hitch. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people would say that you're like the real life Hitch. And
Yeah.
I remember that even the first time someone told me that, I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And then I looked and I saw the movie and I was like, oh, wow, that is very similar,
Yeah.
But I never claimed it because I didn't want Sony to come after me, right? But like when people, but when people heard it and I was like, yeah, like it made sense to them what I was doing. Cause I was helping guys who wanted to find love because they wanted to make a family.
Yeah.
Right. They wanted to start building a legacy. And I really enjoyed helping those guys find those people. And I worked with women too, And so once I got to the point where now there's over 400, probably closer to 500 now at this point, marriages.
Wow.
Yeah. Like it's amazing. That whole experience was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Cause you went and did that. You made it all the way to Steve Harvey, which is, almost everybody knows who that is.
Yeah.
And you've made that connection. You're on there. You seem like you had it together. And then I think like at that point, is it one of those things that you're just like, where do I go from here? Or, you start, like you said, starting to look for purpose, right? And
Yeah. It was like, it wasn't so much like, it was one of the questions was, where do I go from here? But the other question was like, why am I doing this? Like that was a harder question to answer.
Yeah.
And when I got to the core of it, it was, I was doing this for other people. And that's when I realized I was playing someone else's game.
And you needed to be onto yours, hence moving through and finding that connection to, that's just wild to me. Switching from doing that kind of work to semi-pro video gamer, which I totally get that. I am not a massive video game person. I suck at them personally when it comes to, I like my Mario Brothers. I want the original one from Nintendo, and that's like the one I got good at.
Yeah.
All I'm doing, right? Yeah, Mario Kart. I am kind of the queen of Mario Kart, not gonna lie.
Nice.
The kids in my household here, they're kind of like, no, I don't want to play you, mom.
There you go.
But my oldest daughter, she is the gamer person. She's the one that's always, especially computer games like the PC games and things like that. And I remember my daughter would watch a lot of the video gamers on YouTube. And I was one of those that was kind of judgy about people being obsessed over video games, not gonna lie, you know?
Yeah.
And I kind of would get on her and I'm like, hey, I'm like, quit watching people. Why are you spending so much time just wasting your time watching people play on video games when you can just go out there and go play it yourself, you know? And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, mom, she's like, why do people watch football when they can just get out there and go play it themselves? And
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
I'm like, well, because they're watching people do it at such a high level that, you know, there's no way they would attain that, you know, themselves. And she's like, yeah, same thing. She's like, these guys are playing this stuff and they do it professionally. And it's such a high level of playing that like I can't play that way. And I'm learning things by watching them. And I'm like, okay, all right. I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
then and then as she got older and she became an adult, and she went to apply for a job as a 911 dispatcher.
Mm,
And the entry stuff that like testing that they had you go through was being able to manage multiple open windows on different computers. And you've got something coming in over here and you're having to deal with it. And then as you're kind of like successfully doing this, it would almost like level you up. And it would
yeah.
a second thing that you had to manage at the same time you were doing this first thing. And as she
Mm,
was explaining this to me, she's like, thank God I played video games. And I'm like, she's like, mom. It's like, yeah, okay. Like, maybe that was maybe it was a good thing, you know?
yeah.
So it's really interesting tying the video games into life as well. And the one up effect that that you've talked about, because you do. You get in life and you're so afraid to make a mistake that it
Yeah.
can almost like freeze you in one place where
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to make any moves because there's a 50-50 shot that it's not going to turn out well. And everybody looks at the negative on that, like, oh, I'm not going to get a second chance, or I'm not, if I do this, it's going to screw it up, or it's, whatever it is. And they fail due to lack of movement,
Yeah.
not because they actually did anything wrong in trying. The problem was
Mm-hmm.
didn't. And from,
Yeah.
like you said, that fear of that's it. This is going to be the only option, the only chance I get, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would even take it a step further, before action shows up, there needs to be like not just a decision, but just like a belief that you can take action,
Mm,
right? Like action always comes comes after a thought,
that's true.
and feelings drive the intensity of the action.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't believe that you can do something,
Mm-hmm.
you might feel, I'm just using an example here, less than,
Yep.
and that's going to create a feeling of immobility
Mm-hmm.
for you to take action. And I always talk about like, someone always asks me like, how do you actually build confidence? Like someone had asked me about that because they were like, you basically sell it. This was back in the days of Wingman.
Yeah.
How do you help someone build confidence? And I go, well, confidence is a result of a feedback loop.
Uh,
And at every stage of decision, belief, action, and feedback, there's in between those points, your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors before each point. But where confidence shows up, people expect that confidence just is something that like just happens within us.
mhm,
Confidence is not required for you to do something.
mhm.
People get that wrong all the time,
Yeah.
right? It's actually confidence comes as a result of doing something.
Mhm.
And inside of that, it's your interpretation of feedback from the action that you took
Mm.
that'll determine whether your confidence goes up or it goes down. So I'll give an example of like when I used to take my clients out to meet people out at nightlife environments, I would always observe how they would respond to when they would approach someone and it didn't work out.
Mhm.
And oftentimes when they felt they had a negative bias towards the feedback that they received,
Mhm.
the chances of them actually having a successful interaction the next time was significantly less,
Wow.
significantly. But if they were able to see something about what they did that was good, and then they went in and focused on improving even that part,
Mhm.
their chance of a successful interaction went up dramatically.
Wow. That's
And they don't realize that they actually built confidence through the initial rejection that they had.
that makes sense. Yeah. Do you think that from your experience with dealing with people both in your wingman and in the, what you're doing now, the one up effect, do you find that humans have a tendency to gravitate to the negative thoughts versus the positive ones more?
Yeah, absolutely. Most repetitive thoughts that we have as human beings are actually negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are constantly, even just if we even have social media or screens to look at, the majority of our thoughts that are repetitive are negative. So now if we insert social media and screens and advertising and so much other things, it actually compounds exponentially because we're constantly sizing ourselves up against most people's perceived best. Right? Everyone's highlight reel, we're sizing up with our reality, and
Right.
it's always going to fall short.
Yeah.
I call this one of the things that tries to convince you that you suck. It's a total ego trap.
Yeah.
Is when you compare yourself to other people's best, you will lose every single time. Like it's a winless situation.
Yeah.
And the antidote to that is actually gratitude, believe it or not. When you're actually grateful for your own strengths, grateful for the things that you do have, grateful for, how far you have come, that actually helps elevate your confidence in a more natural way.
Why do you think people, have you found a theme or anything that has kind of given you an understanding as to naturally why people tend to be so negative about themselves? That like instead of finding that positive, that we tend to just naturally gravitate to that negative aspect. I mean, because it really doesn't feel very evolutionarily prudent for us because it's kind of
Yeah.
does the opposite of, benefiting us. So why do you think that we do that? Why do we do that to ourselves?
Programming.
Yeah.
Programming from a kid, like from out of the womb. Most kids, studies have shown most kids are told no dozens and dozens of times a day and told yes very few times a day. And that's just at home. When you go to school, the entire experience is all about course correction. It's all about what you're doing wrong and how to do it better. There's rarely acknowledgement or praise for actually doing your job. It's expected for you to do well in school. So when you do it, you don't get nearly as much praise. But if you do something wrong, there is a focus on that. So we are constantly indoctrinated to look for error, to look for what's wrong with ourselves. And in some ways that's good because we can always find ways to be better. But if we don't take moments to acknowledge that we actually are good now, that's what makes it tough.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, totally. Now, I know like in my own personal journey, I've kind of dealt with imposter syndrome a lot. And you talk about like, having confidence to do the things. Like I know I've been successful at doing many, many things, but it seems like no matter how many times that I am personally successful in doing the thing, it's always but why would anybody want me to do that? Why wouldn't they go for this other person? There's other people out there better than me at this. Like, I'm not somebody anybody would want to, should want to deal with. I mean, who am I? And
Yeah,
did you ever kind of feel that way and experience that kind of like in your own journey?
all the time,
Yeah.
all the time. That moment when I was in Chicago was probably the most intense feeling of imposter syndrome that I ever experienced because I'm sitting there, totally success, but feeling like a total fraud because none of it was built on who I really was. It was built on who I thought I needed to be. And that's just a house of cards. That's just bound to collapse.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome is really interesting. I wrote a lot about it in the book, but I also went really deep. And this is a lot of what I work with my clients is imposter syndrome is kind of touted as the belief that you are a fraud and not good enough to do what you want to do. That's kind of the marketed version of imposter syndrome. As I dug deeper into it, what I actually realized was imposter syndrome is actually a confusion of identity.
Okay.
Like you believe something about you that is false.
Okay.
That is not actually a part of your identity. And when you're confused about your identity, of course you're going to question yourself. Right. And so for example, so I'll give another sports example, right? Like Steph Curry, greatest shooter, 3-point shooter of all time. He experiences imposter syndrome, even if it's at a very small amount. I believe this. I don't know if he actually does, but I can't confirm that, right? But I just believe that a little bit. But what prevents that little bit of imposter syndrome getting in the way of his performance is because he practices, right? Like this idea of faking it till you make it is actually a lie. That is actually what creates more imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because you're literally faking, you're being false in what you're trying to do. So the reframe around that is actually to practice what you want to do better. So Steph Curry, over the course of his career, has taken multiple millions of shots over the course of his basketball career, dated back to when he was a little kid. I don't know the exact number of how many 3-point shots he's made in the NBA, but I can tell you it's a very small amount, maybe less than 1%. Right? So he's taken 2 million, let's say, for example, 2 million shots over the course of his career, but he's only known for having made less than 1% of them in his career.
We can all just sit there and be happy with the idea that we were successful in 1% of the things that we attempted. And
yeah, absolutely. Right? Usain Bolt's another great example. Fastest man alive, several years.
Yeah.
And he's only known for that because he's able to run one race for less than 10 seconds. That's it. Right? But think about how much time he's put in to run. Miles that he's put in to run, how much time he's put in to run. Like those 10 seconds is a micro fraction of the amount of time that he's invested practicing for those 10 seconds. So I share these two examples, and there's so many more examples to give, but the idea is the imposters are people who are actually fake. The imposters are people who actually do things and have an ulterior motive, which studies have shown that like 1 out of 7 people actually are real imposters.
Really? Wow.
When you are practicing and getting better, you're not an imposter. There might be a moment where you question, can I actually do this? But if you look back to your preparation and all the things that you did leading up to that moment, your identity is clear. You are that person. And I would even go as far to say, even to you, Brooke, like there might be people who are better than you. Right?
Yeah.
But you are uniquely equipped to do the things that they can't do.
This is true.
Right? And so when you have someone who's uniquely equipped, and then you have someone who is excellent at a high level, that's when you get someone the likes of Steph Curry. That's the one where you get the likes of a LeBron James or a Michael Jordan or a Tiger Woods or a Usain Bolt, right? Like it's peak practice, peak character creates those icons.
Interesting. Yeah.
But you don't have to be at that level.
Wow.
You can be just very good character, very good in your practice, and dominate just the same.
That's really interesting. Yeah, no, that's absolutely, I can totally see that. Yeah. You have such an interesting way of putting things. I can see why you're successful in doing what you do. It's worded very, very well, very understandable. And yeah, I want to take and go back a little bit to as you were kind of coming up with that one-up effect and you were, kind of moving through your journey. What was that like with your family? How did that
Mm,
go with your family? Because I would think, as you were talking about some of the things you said, that during your wingman time, if I remember correctly, you met your
yes.
wife during that time, right?
Mhm.
And you were going to have your child and everything. So how did all of that affect that relationship? And how did you guys manage to kind of work through that and get through that?
Oh my gosh. Like that could be its own podcast. Honestly. I mean, the how close I was to losing my family, like, I cannot understate how close it was. I mean, it was very, very difficult for everyone
Mhm.
because what's really tough is when you have the woman in your life who sees you for who you are, but is also witnessing like, not that person.
Mhm.
Right? And the faith required to, like, believe that that person is really there, but you're still enduring the harm and the hurt that, like, this other person's behavior is causing, like, it just it takes a toll, and I word it that way because that's what my wife had to endure.
Yeah.
I was not the husband, and I was not as present of a father as I could have been during that time. And when I got sober, it minimized the damage that, like, consuming alcohol and drugs would do, which
Mhm.
of course is a great thing. Like, I'm so blessed by God to not have to worry about that ever again. And there was a lot of repairing that needed to happen
Yeah.
because the truth of the matter is, even if I was wasted or unconscious or blacked out, like, it's still me who is doing these things, and I needed to take responsibility and make things right.
Mhm.
And that took great effort.
Mhm.
That which I was committed to, because at the end of the day, I'm in a marriage.
Yeah.
And if this marriage is the Titanic,
Mhm.
I am going down to the bottom of the sea with this thing.
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna bail.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pull the rip cord or anything like that. Like, that seems so common today. Like,
Yeah.
I
Is.
I chose this woman
Mhm.
and I'm going to be with her until, like, the last day, whenever that is,
Mhm.
whether it's my last breath or we actually are just everything's burnt to the ground, you
Yeah.
know? And I said this to her, and what's tough is you say these things with such conviction, but your previous behavior has shown otherwise.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know,
Actions speak louder than words type situation. Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
So thank God for the one up effect because I was its first client and I was able to create a gamified lifestyle that allowed me to track all the things that were important to me in my life, such as improving my health, improving my connection with my wife
Mhm.
through various things like weekly date nights and verbal words of affirmation and opportunities to express my love. Same thing with my daughter,
Mhm.
spending time with her on a regular basis to have that connection point, being able to just gamify how I'm absorbing information, how am I increasing myself as a valuable asset to the world,
Mhm.
tracking my contribution and being of service to other people locally and inside of my family. Like, all of these things came together, and when I tracked it, all of it improved because there's a principle behind that,
Yeah.
right? Everything that gets tracked typically grows,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that's when I started to see better results. My wife was increasing her trust in me again.
Mhm.
I was becoming more consistent in the way I was showing up, so I was able to build integrity, not just within myself, but also with my family.
Mhm.
Right? I was becoming the guy who did what he said,
Yeah.
and it took a long time for me to get back to that place. And it wasn't, this whole, like, this rocket ship that just went up. Like, we had ups and downs and that we had to navigate. And one of the things that we realized that was very lacking in our dynamic was open communication
Yeah. Work
because
with a lot of
everything
people. Mhm.
yeah, because everything felt sensitive.
Mm.
Everything felt like if we said something, the next war was going to start, right? Like,
Walk
there
on
was
eggshells and waiting for that next shoe to drop.
absolutely, right? And here's the
Yep.
truth, like, there's no one who knows me better than my wife, and so she has the keys to the nuclear bomb that could, like, go off in our marriage,
Right.
and I have the keys to hers,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so we're sitting here and it's basically a cold war
Yeah.
because we don't want to do that to ourselves, right? But we're afraid that if we say the wrong thing differently, we would like accidentally trip over the fire button, right? And so we had to sit down and realize that like we need to create like entirely new dynamic around communication and what our marriage is supposed to be. And one of the most important things is we have to understand that we are on each other's team.
Yeah.
Like under all circumstances, there's no part of me that comes into an interaction with my wife thinking that I'm going to get the best of her or I want her to feel bad because of how I'm feeling. I actually want us to be able to move forward together.
Yep.
Sometimes that gets forgotten, right?
Yeah.
Especially when we're triggered or dysregulated. But because of that intention, it's important that we can communicate as openly and honestly as possible without the feeling that we're going to be persecuted or judged, because there is when we can start to feel safe, not just in our marriage, but in our home, and we're sharing each other. And that was a huge inflection point in our marriage.
That's amazing. It's wonderful. It seems like you guys have come out the other side stronger and more in tune with each other than ever. It's kind of, went through those trials and tribulations, but it showed you what you guys were actually capable of doing together and, what all you actually could face. And going through that knowing that you got through that probably makes a lot of the other day to day or the, issues that pop up here and there in life seem like they're just kind of, this is going to be an easy one to get through. That's all right.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
We
I mean,
got this.
when it comes to crisis, I mean, we know that we got each other and that we're excellent at that. We just know that. And like on the other side of it, like if I had told anyone or she had told anyone that one had left the other, I don't think anyone would blame either of us for it, right? Because we were at that point.
Yeah.
But the decision to stay together and to work through it was massive for us because we realized that we are actually better together. And if we separate, like the odds of us having the growth and the maturity and the wisdom that can allow us to move forward in life, it would have been affected by trying to do this on our own.
Yeah.
So that's really our mantra is like, whatever's going on, like we're better together doing this than we are separate.
Yeah. And I agree with that. I think that, in my opinion, I think that today's world and society in general, I mean, like if you remember like back in your grandparents, how long did your grandparents have their refrigerator? I mean, that thing lasted for decades, right? Now it's like you're shifting them out every 5 years because they fall apart. It's not worth getting the part to fix it. It's not worth, this, under the other. And things today are almost designed to discard them when they become problematic. And I feel that like people have taken that same idea into marriage. And, in a lot of ways that it's just something that like, as it gets hard, as it gets complicated, it's just something to, discard it, try again, start over, just, and not put in that work. And I think we see a much higher divorce rate today than what we used to, out of that stuff. And I think that's amazing that, that you guys chose not to start each other. I think that's amazing.
Thank you. And we've been together for over 11 years, and so like, it's a testament to the work and the effort that is required to make something like this work, like like it's just so important. Like we're not, and here's the best part about it. Like we're not together because we have to be.
Yeah.
Right. Like we wake up and every day we're choosing to be together.
That's
right. And I think we forget that part, right? We forget that like, it is a choice, but there's so much more than just the choice, because if I just let it be my choice, I would wake up tomorrow and feel gross and then be like, I don't want to be in this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
It's just so much more. That the word choice is not this finicky thing where, we choose today and then we don't choose tomorrow. It's actually just, it's bigger than that. I would go as far as saying it's a decision, right? Because when you decide, you're literally cutting off from all other possibilities. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to decide and they'll hide behind choice because you can always change your choices.
Yeah.
But when you decide,
Yeah.
well,
Now you've made the decision. Yeah.
now you made the decision.
It's interesting. So my grandparents, they got together very, very young. And it was, I think my grandmother felt like she didn't have a choice, that it was something that she had to partake, to marry him. And then sometime, golly, I was born, so I know that they were older, but it probably had to be, they were probably in their early 40s, maybe something along those lines, early mid 40s. And my grandmother decided, I'm divorcing you. And so she did. They stayed divorced for about a year. She did nothing else. She just lived her life for the year. And then she says, okay, I'm ready to marry you again because I want to. And it was like, she just had to like prove to herself that she made the choice and, made that decision. It was so interesting because it wasn't like anybody was running off doing any craziness. I don't even know if they stayed divorced a whole year. I would be shocked to say that,
Yeah.
but it was all like, she just had to make those movements to be like, no, I don't want to feel like I'm in this marriage because I have to be. 'Cause times were different back then,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and she's like, I want to be in this because I'm choosing to be in it. And that's what she did. Like I said, I don't even think they were divorced a whole year because my grandpa slept on our couch for a while. And so it didn't seem like he was there that long. I don't remember him there that long before he was back at his house. And so it was just kind of funny. It is. It's choice, making the choice. And then, after that, they were together until my grandmother passed away a year and a half ago. And she was 81 years old. I think she was 81 when she passed away. And they got married when they were in their late teens.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah. Yep. And so that was that. And it was an interesting bit about choice, knowing that you're making that choice and it's not because you have to be. And that last part of their marriage, they were happy, they were, and it was all that difference of, I want to be with you. I don't have to be with you,
Exactly. Right. You want to, and you get to. Right. And when you offer yourself from that place, the person who's receiving it gets the exceptional reward, and that's how I feel about it with my wife, right? Like, I want her to know that I'm choosing and to have decided to be here, but also I want to, and I know that I get to be here.
Yeah.
Right. And that's special.
Yeah.
And when the two people show up that way, anything's possible. You can really overcome anything. And when there's nothing to overcome, you can really be in what my dad calls like the honeymoon, the real honeymoon.
Yeah.
It's not just post-wedding, it's during your marriage. You can experience those moments.
I love that. So what has shaped your worldview the most over the last 5 years, do you think?
I would say the number one thing is the realization that principles do not discriminate. When I see whatever's happening in the world, in my life, in my business, in other people's businesses, like, all I see are principles playing out. That's all I see.
Yeah.
And the reason why principles are so great is that they work. They're effective. They never not work.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
If they don't work, it's because the person who's applying the principle is not applying it the way the principle is intended to be applied.
Absolutely.
And because of this, it actually created more peace for me when I see chaos happening in the world, because I can see, oh, that's a principle actually playing out. That's happening. And there's a principle that actually can reverse that or counteract that.
Yeah.
That not enough people are applying.
Yeah.
Right. So that principle is causing the chaos right now is basically considered the higher priority principle that most people are adopting. And so that has completely, changed even how I coach,
Yeah.
because people are successful in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what area, but there's one area of life where I know that they're successful in, and they'll tell me what that is. I don't think anyone goes through life not being successful in an area of life.
Right.
And when I hear from them how they're successful, I hear principles. And
Right.
in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, like if that principle works for you there, there's no reason why it can't work for you in a place you want it to be, you want to be successful in.
Right.
And if more people understood that
Yeah.
and applied those principles, oh my gosh, like the world would be a totally different place.
Yeah.
And the people who are complaining about how they're not, living well would live extremely well because they're applying their own success principles in other parts of their lives, And so that has been a huge game changer for me and for the clients I've been able to share that with.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. Because it's when you see, like you said, when you see chaos happening, if you can see the principles in it, what clicked with me for you saying that was that if you can view the world through that, it makes sense out of the chaos. It doesn't make it look like it's just randomly happening for no reason,
Yeah.
which gets
Mhm.
scary because what are they?
Yeah.
I mean, like, see, I'm a big comic book nerd and science nerd and stuff like that. So, like,
Yeah.
but it's always like, people fear what they don't understand.
Yeah.
And if they don't understand why something's happening, now it's scary. And
Yep.
you can see the principles behind it, then it's like, oh, okay. Now that makes sense. Now, okay, it's not as
Yeah.
scary anymore. I still don't like it, or I still, whatever it is, but at least I understand it,
Exactly.
the so
Exactly.
you can make decisions to move, to move forward.
1,000%. Right. And oftentimes what I find is there are, I don't want to make things always polarizing, but oftentimes there are people who are willing to understand. Like they'll seek the information to understand, and they'll seek a diverse set of information to understand the full spectrum of a thing.
Mhm.
And then there's others who will seek information from one side of the spectrum. And then there's others who just won't seek information at all.
Mhm.
Right. And
Yep.
each of those paths lead to eventually a cognitive bias,
Mhm.
right? Whether it's
Absolutely.
for or against the thing.
Yep.
And it makes it tough because those who, for example, are limited in their information, right, are kind of leaning on what they know,
Mhm.
and then they may get threatened by someone who might know more.
Yep.
And oftentimes what we'll find is like the counter argument will be an attack of someone's character, right?
Yes.
Who they are,
Yes.
what they look like,
Yep.
because that's just a different leverage point. And like, and once again, inside of all of that,
Mhm.
there are principles that are being applied,
Mhm.
and how effective those principles are is determined based on the person,
Yeah. Yep.
right? So if we're in conversation and I'm like, the sky is blue, and you tell me the sky is purple, and I have scientific evidence that the sky is blue. Well, and then you're like, well, your skin's purple. That's weird. You know what I mean? And like, and all, and if
Yeah.
I feel like affected by that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That means you effectively use a principle
True.
right at hand.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't have to do that. I don't have to be affected by the fact that you attack my character.
Yeah.
Right. Because my principles are more established or bigger. You could say better if you want to. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's relative at the end of the day, but like I value my principles more than I value that use of that principle.
Right.
Not you. I value you,
Right.
but the use of that principle in our dynamic, I don't
Yeah.
value that as much.
And that is something that I think people struggle with too, is it's like if they can't seem to separate a lot of times just what you said. I don't value the principle, but that doesn't mean I don't value you.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
they blend it together, and it's like somebody takes it, well, if you don't value my principle, well, yeah, then you're just a discarded person. Get rid of, or whatever. And they can't split the two. You can have a good person and not agree
Yeah.
with everything they say or everything they
Absolutely.
or whatever. And with my daughter, she's highly intelligent, and that can be to her benefit and to her detriment at the same
Mhm.
nothing. She just turned 21 this past month, but growing up as a teenager, they know everything.
Yeah.
They know it
Yeah.
all, everything. And what they're thinking is the right thing and, whatever. And I I think she hated it to start with, but she grew to love it. I didn't care what side of something she argued. I didn't care whether I agreed with it or not. And boy, if I wouldn't sit there and pick up the other side of the conversation and
Hmm.
start arguing the other side. She wouldn't necessarily know that how I felt about it, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I always told her, and I used to tell my students because I used to teach too, and we would do
Mm.
the same thing. They never knew my any of my personal beliefs, political affiliations, any of that kind of stuff. Like I never let that be a part of it because you don't want to influence. You want to teach critical thinking so that they can
Yeah.
learn to think on their own. And it would not matter to what they argued, to me. I was going to argue the opposite, whatever it
Yeah.
was, because I'm like, if you're going to be stout enough to really push your thoughts, then you better be able to solidly defend them.
Hmm.
And as my daughter got older, I told her, I said, look, I said, if you can't argue effectively both sides of whatever conversation you're having, then you don't know enough to be able to argue it at all anyway,
That's powerful.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is how I brought her up. And she hated it to start with, but now, boy, if she doesn't try to do the same thing to me anymore when new topics come up, and she right back at me now.
But I commend that. I think it's so important. I mean, to have like a worldly point of view where you can see both sides of the spectrum gives you a more comprehensive like perspective on things,
Hmm.
And I think like ultimately the end goal should always be for some level of integration,
Yeah.
of understanding the whole thing,
Hmm.
right? And finding a solution that can allow things to move forward, right?
Right.
As best as
Right.
possible.
Right.
And now it's interesting, right? This is kind of a global topic. Now we can bring this down to in a micro perspective, right? Like these are the conversations that we have with ourselves internally,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
if there's a belief about ourselves, whether it's limiting or it's empowering, like how do you argue for or against it?
Yeah.
Are you arguing for or against it, right? Like if
Oh,
you
yeah.
believe something that about yourself
Yeah.
that is limiting, are you spending more time arguing for in defense of that? Like how much are you trying to protect something that's limiting you?
Oh,
And
wow.
how much are you spending time elevating something that's empowering you? Oftentimes that's happening before the outward expression of whatever reaction people are having to things.
Oh my goodness.
And that's
You're
oftentimes what I
wow.
pay attention to.
Dropping all kinds of truth bombs. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. That one you're right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And it makes it easier for me to see the person
Yeah.
as who they are,
Yeah.
having that experience.
Yeah.
And it removes me from thinking about them in a particular way.
Yeah.
And it allows me to separate the words from the person
Yeah.
because I don't know what's going on inside of them that's causing that type of reaction.
Very.
And it's not about me.
Yeah.
They're talking to me, but it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's about whatever they're internalizing in the conversation they're having internally
Yeah.
that is resulting in what's coming out externally.
Yeah, that's true. I could totally see that. Yeah. What do you believe now about success that your past self back when you were 22, 23 years old would never be able to have accepted?
Hmm. It's a great question. What comes to mind is that success is not a destination,
Mhm.
it's an experience.
Mm. Mhm.
That's a big difference for me. I was always trying to get somewhere, get to some place, get the thing. And when I had time to reflect on my behavior as I was writing the one up effect and like really incorporating the philosophy, I realized that like I spent so much time getting to the thing that I never actually paid attention to what I was doing in the journey on the road to the thing. And what I also realized was the moment I had set a goal for myself, my happiness and my general contentment decreased on the way towards that destination, that success. And when I experienced it, I experienced this huge like spike in dopamine and excitement.
Yeah.
And I realized that like right after that moment, whether it was for a minute, 2 minutes, an hour, I totally crashed. I had a dopamine crash. And in order to prevent the crash, what I needed to do was set a new destination. And so I fell into the trap of being focused on just creating more and more destinations.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that like my success was formulated in the experience of getting to the destination. So what I do now is I set targets and goals and those type of things to give me direction of where I want to go. But I am more focused and present to the journey and the principles and the habits and the things that I'm creating that's providing me these stepping stones of success along the way, because that's what I value now more than ever.
Yeah.
Right? Like, imagine living in a world where if you decided that you were going to be successful at something, that it was going to happen. So if it's going to happen, why not just enjoy the experience getting there?
That is so true. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Now you have the book that you have coming out, right? The One Up Effect. They can go to your website and get a pre-ordered copy, correct? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. And we're going to drop those links and everything down in the show notes and in the comments and everything too. So they'll be able to get over there to that. And I suggest everybody going and running and getting this. I love that. And the other thing that we were talking about is you have an event that I was seeing on social media, You're Better Together. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So Better Together is a 4-month coaching experience that's facilitated by myself and my wife.
Love it.
And all the things that we talked about, even on this podcast and more around how you can create more peace, joy, and connection in your marriage. We go through that whole experience, communication tools, rituals, interpersonal experiences to have separately and together, a group-oriented community of couples who just want more out of their marriage. And one big distinction that my wife and I wanted to be clear about is we're not looking for marriages that are on the rocks, right? Like that, like are on the brink of divorce. There's nothing wrong with that. But the amount of lifting and recovery might require more resources and tools beyond just being coached. But there isn't enough support for couples who actually just want to be better. Right? They just want a better marriage.
Totally agree.
Not because anything is wrong, but maybe they don't have a path or an awareness of how to better their marriage. They don't know how to approach the conversation because it might be one of those ticking time bombs of saying, hey, I want more out of us. Because we don't know what the other person is going to react, right? And so we really wanted this to be about people who want better out of themselves, out of their partners, and out of the experience of marriage. And so if you're interested in that, you can also go to thomasedwardsjr.com or you can DM me on Instagram. I'm at the Thomas Edwards Jr. and you can actually just say better. And that'll let me know that you want to specifically talk about Better Together.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. I love that because it is. It's so hard because there are all these things to fix your marriage, but to sit there and just like, let's just grow closer together. And sometimes you don't know how to do that. It's like, you want it, but how do you do it? How do you facilitate it? I love that. I love that. I love it so much.
And to your point, Brooke, right? Like oftentimes we wait until something needs to be fixed in order to improve it, right? Or Band-Aid it. But there's so many other areas of our lives where we do invest in bettering, specifically our health in our business or our careers, right? Like no one is happy typically staying exactly where they are when it comes to their health or their business or their career, right? They're always looking for growth. I think one of the most underrated X factors in even facilitating those two areas is actually your relationships. And if you're married, it's a super X factor,
Mhm.
because I've seen it with my clients. When they are so connected in their marriage, a lot of what they experience and hear and have with their partner easily translates to their business.
Mhm.
And there's a freedom and there's a confidence and there's a clarity in their decision making abilities and in their business that just wouldn't exist
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
they had that lack of experience at home.
Yeah. Well, it goes
You
back
know?
to what you were saying about having two different versions of yourself, your
Yep,
business and your life version. And they really aren't. It's one version, you know.
exactly.
I love
I
that.
mean, imagine the freedom that comes from just
Yeah.
you being who you are
Yeah.
wherever you go, and it's not easy, right? Like, I always joke around and say, especially for entrepreneurs, like, you have so many hats that you try to wear
Mhm.
when you're starting a business or you're an entrepreneur. And I create this visualization of like, you still can only wear one hat at a time.
Mhm.
Because if you try to wear more than one, you just look silly.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you just look silly wearing 7 hats at once, right? Like, you still have to wear, but what people forget is that at some point, you're not wearing a hat.
Mhm.
You're just you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you are wherever you go.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, there you are, right? And so
Get away from
if
it.
that is the case, you might as well just embrace it
Yeah.
and bring it all together.
So, what does the next season in life look like for you?
Man, actually really start with something that is not as exciting. Well, doesn't seem as exciting, but like, I tore my Achilles 2 months ago at the time of this recording.
Mhm.
And actually it's 3 months ago now. And even though it was a debilitating injury, I can assure you it was one of the best times to have the injury and one of the best experiences I've had recovering from the injury, because it gave me an opportunity to stop
Mhm.
and reflect and see, like, what do I want to do moving forward? I recently turned 40. Like, what do I want my next decade to look like? Right.
Mhm.
And this is where all these things started to come up with, like, why don't I just do all the things? Why don't I create things wrapped around the things that I want to do?
Mhm.
Like, I have this book that's going to come out at some point. Like, I'm so excited to share the wisdom of this book in so many different contexts, whether it's in someone's personal life, in organizations and businesses, with married couples who are in business together. I mean, that's a whole other
A
thing,
whole
right? But
other
like,
ball game.
yeah. But like, all that's super exciting. I'm looking forward to curating events where I can get people together and experience of the rush of and the history behind high performance, particularly cars,
Oh.
and aligning it with their own internal ambitions
Mhm.
and bringing it together in a way that allows them to take all that to another level in their lives, in their homes, in their businesses. I'm looking forward to continue to be with my daughter and watch her grow and continue to be a guide for her in the best way possible. Like, there's so many there's just so many things that I'm looking forward to. I think beyond just like my family, I'm really looking forward to the lives that I'm going to have a chance to interact with and hopefully help make better,
Yeah.
help improve. There's a lot of people out there that need support.
Yes.
I think more than ever before, honestly.
I agree.
And if I can find a way to be of service to support them in living a life that they want,
Mhm.
especially if they have kids involved, just because whatever they end up acquiring, their kids acquire it too. Like,
Generational. Yep.
yeah, like that type of thing really lights me up because I'm living it,
Yeah.
and I
Mhm.
want to be able to empower people to do the same.
Yeah. Now you mentioned your high performance cars. We
Yeah.
talked about something a little bit earlier before we got on camera. Do you want to dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, right now there's an event that I haven't officially announced, but like, we can talk about it now. This will be the official announcement. It's it's called the Inner Drive,
Okay.
and it's a 3-day experience for high performing entrepreneurial men. I I would love for it to be with dadpreneurs. But if you're not a dad or you're not married, it's okay. You can come. But we're keeping it intimate, and it's experience we're partnering with a racing league called Formula GT, and it's meant to really bring together the history of high performance, the thrill, and the hands-on experience of driving incredible cars on incredible tracks, meeting high performance racers who risk their lives driving at, 180, 200 miles per hour, and the discipline and the training that comes with that. And then combining it with personal transformation.
That's
How do you take these experiences and the things that you want to create and turn it into something that actually can drive you forward, not just for yourself, but for your family and for future generations and the community that you're a part of. I'm really excited. I mean, this is the kind of event that I've always wanted to be a part of, and I couldn't find it. So I was like, I'm just going to create it.
make it.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it.
It's happening in California, August of 2026. And if you want to sign up, once again, you can go to thomasedwardsjr.com
Yeah.
and you can get on the pre-launch wait list.
Where do you still feel like you're a bit stretched in your own life?
Now, this is funny, right? Like all the things I'm talking about that I'm really looking forward to also comes with the caveat that like I have the capacity to do all these things, right?
Yeah.
And I think where I have to be really mindful of is how much am I giving my time and attention to without having to sacrifice the things that are important to me, particularly my health, my family, my connection to God, my friends, and then also my clients, right? They're on that list too. And so if anything, where I could be stretched thin, I don't really feel stretched thin yet.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could happen once some of these things are actually showing up, like when it's time to launch my book, when this event is actually coming together in the last 6 months, when I'm able to actually create significant impact in my local community of Wilmington, North Carolina, and really help businesses grow, and the hands-on approach that I intend to take. There's going to be moments where I'm going to feel overwhelmed. And I know like that's just guaranteed, but I'm so grateful to have tools and support and people in my life that can guide me through that as well. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So as we're starting to kind of like bring our conversation kind of round it out and, kind of bring it to an end, I have a couple of, if I could, some fun kind of rapid fire questions that probably make no sense, and it's fine. They're just for fun. Okay. And
all the better.
All the better. Okay. What is a bucket list item that you still have unchecked?
Oh, I talked about this morning. Going to Japan.
Oh,
I want to, going to Japan. I want to hit up Tokyo. I want to hit up Osaka, Kyoto, Yokohama. I want to go to Ueno Park. I mean, there's so many places I want to go to. I actually, fun fact, minored in Japanese in college.
Oh, wow.
And I currently have 111 straight days of Duolingo refreshing myself in Japanese.
Love it.
So yeah, that is number one on my bucket list.
Okay, cool. All right. Something that your wife does that you say drives you nuts, but secretly you love it and you'd be really sad if it wasn't there.
She is so silly. Like, I mean, the kind of silliness that like, even just thinking about it, like I'm getting like sweaty about it. It's like, there's a part of me that's like, oh my gosh, this is so cringe. But then it's also like adorable, like I kind of, and she only like, she's gonna hate me for saying this, but like she only like gives that to me. Like I don't think like I don't think she like shares that publicly enough. And so I kind of feel like I get the privilege and the benefit of only experiencing that level of silliness, even though it's like sometimes creepy, but it's also slightly adorable,
That is amazing. I feel like she and I would be fast friends then, because same thing. Like I get out there and I'm sorry. I can't help it. If Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody comes on in a store and it's playing, you better bet that I'm about to put on a full show.
Oh my gosh.
Happen.
Yeah. That's her. That is totally her. Totally her. There's just certain songs that like you'll just hear and I'm like, Okay.
Yeah.
Breathe. Like it's only 3 minutes long. It's okay. It's all right.
I love it. I love it. One book that changed your life.
Oh man, there's so many. I'll always go back to the first book, which was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Mhm.
I was 19 years old when I read it and had no intentions of reading that book for business. I actually was reading it for communication and relationships.
Uh-huh.
And because I read a book with that context, it transformed how I communicated moving forward.
Love
So
that.
that was a game changer for me.
Love it. Okay, I have 2 questions left. All right.
Okay.
All right. If you had a billboard every dad could see, what would it say?
I'm gonna close my eyes and visualize it. You deserve flowers too.
Aw, I love that. That is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. I find that men do not experience the level of praise
Mhm.
and appreciation in comparison to women. And I think once again,
Yeah.
this is a kind of a childhood thing. It's
Mhm.
not an adult thing. But men, especially dads, they work so hard to provide, and the amount of pressure that they hold on to,
Mhm.
particularly men who are unequipped to handle and manage those emotions,
Yeah.
the amount that they hold on to is unreal, and they deserve to get their flowers too, literally and figuratively.
Yes, I totally agree with that. 100%. All right, and here's my last question. Now, this one is a little deeper thought. Okay, it's a
Yeah.
little more serious there. So, if we fast forward to the end of your life, okay, and
Mhm.
everyone that you've ever interacted with completely forgets everything you've said, done, or taught, but you can leave them with one message that they will remember forever, what would that be?
Hmm. That's a good one. What comes to me right now is never forget that you are someone else's inspiration.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
Yeah. That one hit hard for me. Like you are always someone else's inspiration.
yeah,
Never forget that.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Thomas. I have really enjoyed
Right.
this conversation
Me
and
too.
it has been wonderful. So, we're going to drop all those links below so that they can get to your website, thomasedwardsjr.com. And they'll find
Mhm.
all of this information. They can find you on Instagram where again?
The Thomas Edwards Jr.
The Thomas Edwards Jr. And yeah, go and I'm telling everybody, go see this. Go look at his
Yes.
social media. It's wonderful. I scroll it all the time. I'm a mini social media stalker of you right now. Yeah, and I love reading your posts. It's wonderful. They're so transformative. They're important. I love what you have to say. And so I'm going
Thank
to tell
you.
everybody you need to go out there, go follow him, go to his website, and let's get on the one up effect. Ah,
Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Thomas.
Thanks, Brooke. I appreciate you.
Yes, you too.